as a very young boy. I played football, soccer. I was in gymnastics with the organization that, because we didn't have any Jewish organizations, there was a Polish club, and I was one of the only one probably, as a Jew belonging to this club of athletics. And we made all kinds of performances, and I was everywhere where there was, to be involved in sports and athletics. I was a skier, I was on trucks, I was running for trucks for Maccabi in Horzów, in Koenigsegg. I was playing with Maccabi, I was on the trucks with Maccabi, 110 meters, and I was very good runner, and I was good in many different types of sports. My father went to America in 1913 because all of my mother's family was in America. Her parents and her brothers and her sisters went to America in parts. My uncle, the first one, came in 1905, 1906, 1907, came the next one. Finally, they took the whole rest of brothers and sisters and the parents. And my mother was already married, and at that time she already had some children, and my father was not eager to leave everything and start to go to an unknown world. So he was not a very aggressive person, but he was a very nice person, straight, he was on a straight line, no deviation from it. So he didn't, but then they persisted that he should come and see for himself. And he went to America in 1913 and took the oldest of my brothers, Joseph, went with him. He was 9 years old at that time. And they were here for about 6 months. He was not so enthusiastic about the situation here altogether, and he couldn't see how he can bring the whole family over in a short period of time. It would take maybe years, and this he didn't want it. He just couldn't see it, to leave 4 children or 5 children behind, and that's it. And I was born after he came from America. He came from America in 1914, and I was born in 15. But unfortunately, he came wanting to be with his wife and family, but then the war broke out, the First World War, and he has not been with the family anyways, because he has been taken to the army. We had a very close family, and as I said, it was not Orthodox, but it was very traditional, very traditional. There was always all prepared for Shabbat, was Shabbat, and my mother started Thursday evening already get all the things prepared, and she baked everything, and there was fish, and there was chicken, and there was whatever, and it was a very, very nice tradition, very, very nice tradition, Jewish tradition, all the time. And I'm gonna go to continuation with my things. I was at that time probably 16 years, which it was like in 1931 maybe, 1930-31. I went to Horzów, and I continued the gymnasium, high school in Horzów, and I graduated there. And
was that a public school?
It was a public school. It was a public, yes.
All different kind of religions.
All different kind of religions, but not a Jewish school. No. My family was very, very respected by the people that came to our barbershop. Were mostly Polish, because the Hasidic, you couldn't even make a living from them. So about 90% Hasidic, 95% of the Jewish population. So we were really relying on the Polish customers, and they were very, very respectful. They liked my mother, they liked my father. We had some people working in the barbershop, and everyone was very well respected. I was very involved in it. I didn't speak Hebrew, but there were some that did. But anyways, the whole idea of Zionism and the whole idea of kibbutz, Akshara, was always talked about. And in fact, after we had different activities, I had a little talent, so I sometimes was producing a little show in Hebrew, although I didn't speak Hebrew, but I was good with arranging with the stage and settings and this and all these things. So I was active in the organization. And later, I signed up for a kibbutz, for Shara, which was in Krakow. They found out that I've been registered into the Polish army already, because in Poland you had to be registered at 18 years old, and to the army you went.
What year was that?
That was in 1933, maybe 33, 34. I was ready to go to Palestine. I was in fact on the list, but unfortunately I couldn't, because I was registered already in the army, because that was an obligation. There was no way not to register. So, and because of that, I could have been in Palestine or Israel already in 1935, 36. I would have been, but that stopped me. I couldn't go. So I stayed with the Hashara, and in 1936, unfortunately, I got bad news from my home. My mother got a stroke. It was on a Wednesday, and they somehow communicated with me, and I went home as soon as I could by train. And I came home, and she was in a coma. It was very sad. I was the youngest, but I kept everybody I kept, with hope. That we're going to somehow make it. And I had to go to the army. I believe it was still during the 10 weeks, or maybe after the 10 weeks, that the captain, that was of the regiment leader, he liked me a lot, and I walked in the office. Again, a break. I walked in the office, and when he invited me, sometimes in the evenings, to his house, gave me the przepustka. Pass. Gave me a pass that I can go out from the casernes. And I came to him. They had no children. There was he and his wife, and we're sitting and we're playing sometimes. We were withdrawing, and I was not really following any group or command. I saw, that everybody is being lost. So everybody is being lost. So I walked with someone, with a Jewish fellow, and we were just sticking together. And whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. And we were going. All of a sudden, a fire is coming from the sky, from there. But it was not from the sky. There were homes, because it was within the city limits. There were homes around, and there were the fire chimneys. And from these chimneys, we felt that there are some guys and shooting at us. Here I feel like a little wind. The bullets were going just by me, and all of a sudden I was in helmet, of course. And looking in the helmet, I feel like, like pushed me down into this. really hard, pushed me down. So I thought I finished. And little by little, I started to open my eyes. I thought I'm dead. And I opened my eyes slowly, and I opened my eyes, and I said, no, I'm not dead, I'm alive. I was there for a little while, but then I said, what can I do? I cannot help anymore. You know, this is it, this is all, I have to leave. And I started to walk, and I walked by myself, and maybe for 2 weeks, there was all going, and I always saw this sight. I just couldn't get it off. So it took me a long time, took me maybe 2-3 weeks, and that was only the second day of the war. It took me at least 2-3 weeks till I started to be able to think clear. And it was already farther away from this area, and we moved till finally it was Rosh Hashanah. It became, and I was already quite close to the eastern Poland. And it was Rosh Hashanah. I knew, I tell you why, because I was very tired and very hungry. And there was a house I saw with candles. So I walked in there, and they told me, and I was with another guy, they told me that it's Rosh Hashanah. So they gave us something to eat, and they put something on the floor, we should rest, we should this and that, and it was okay. But then somebody said that the Germans are already close, and they are inspecting, they're looking. So they didn't want to take the chance with me either. You know. So they had a hay stack or whatever where they keep the hay. So I went to this, like a building, you know, full of hay and this. And I lied there, and I was lying and sleeping there a little bit. And the next day I started to march again. I marched again, and it didn't take much long. It was maybe the 26th or 27th of September already that the Germans encircled us. There was no way else to go. And that I have seen already many more of these soldiers from different formations. And they came and they started to do this. We should give up the rifles and all these things, which I threw away, and that was that. And they started to congregate us in a certain area, and they put us in the freight wagons on the railroad. But one thing that they did give, they gave something to eat. The organization, their organization was much better than some others. So they emptied it, they probably killed them off, all of them, and the barracks there, they used for prisoners of war. So I became a prisoner of war. It's against Soviet Union. General Vlasov was the leader. So they were Ukrainians. The dolmetschers were Jewish people, Jews, that they dolmetsch, you know, for the Germans. They made lists. They missed who is going in what groups, what this. So many had one shot, so many this. So there was a Lieberman, I remember. There were two brothers. So I went to him. Listen, put me on the list. Maybe I can get out. And he did, with the Ukrainians. And they said the Jews will be the last ones to clean up the places, and then they will go. But it never happened. I heard later, it never happened. They already were.
But you foresaw that.
I had a feeling I wanted to get out. I was not the only one, maybe there were more, but not many. And I went with a group of this, and they had like maybe 12 or 13 in a row, and then the Germans came. I don't want to move myself from the spot. But then the German officers, the high officers came, and they came, you know how they walk like this, and look you in the eyes, and in the nose, and in the this, look you know, from top to bottom. You know, I'm I am malak. You know, they just had to do put down your pants, and they would have already seen it. But I was lucky enough that I was then, and I'm not a very brave man in this situation, but somehow I was behaving. You know, I didn't this. I was behaving, and they walked. We had to follow them with the faces, you know, from here to here. We started to walk back home because the railroad didn't work yet. They brought us, this is a very big prison, the biggest prison in Eastern Poland. And so we came there with the big gates, with this, and we went, and each one, you know, was in a camera there, you know, in a cell. And not each one actually, sometimes there were groups, sometimes there was not. Depends. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was that. And so we were there for some time. I got sick there, this, but that's besides the point. And from there, after quite a few weeks, they transported us again by railroad cars. It was already very cold, to Nikolaev, which is the UK, Soviet Ukraine. And that was another prison there, a big, big prison there. And we were in a small camera. The camera was maybe not like the living room, maybe like the kitchen or something, 40 people. And there was nothing there, just the floor. And there were a group of very Hasidic people there, very, very. So I'm orangutan in the toilet, and I'm diskutiert. I'm so Ebel. Anyways, one guy got meshuggah in there, just meshuggah, because he was before getting married, he was engaged, and Ebel lost the mail. So he really got crazy. It took him out, we never saw him. All right, so we were there for quite a long time. From there, they took us for a tremendous interrogation. It came most of the time. Now, the food was terrible. There was no food really. Over there in this particular prison, they were like cabbage, Wasser mit cabbage, you know. And that was every day the same thing, every day the same thing. There was never any change, never anything else. From there, at night time, mostly at night at 12, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, they called a few names. They had to get up, put on whatever they had to put on. We didn't take off, so we were dressed all the time. So we went, and they brought us in this wired up, like the prisoners, like a transport, and brought us to sort of like a court. And what it was, and this is, I wanted to say it because they were in the hallway, in the corridor, you had to wait sometimes for an hour, hour and a half. And they were like a closet that was that wide that you could just stand there and not move much, and very flat, and no air there. Just like that. The very first question was, how much money did you get for coming to spy here? That was the first question. Why spy? So I'm Jewish. And they understood maybe a little Polish, but they understood also Yiddish. I was not a big Yiddishist, but I tried to speak like in German and this and that. We managed. He had a pack of cigarettes on the desk and this, and he had a gun, a revolver on the desk. So he was just persisting. He gave me a cigarette, I said once. He says, persisting that I was sent by the Germans, I was sent here to spy. And I should just better admit it. No, I couldn't admit it because I was not sent by them. So it was going on and on and on and on, and many times over, till finally people were sentenced. I was sentenced to 3 years, not in court, just later. They just told us, you, so and so and so. Some were for 10 years, for 5 years, for 3 years. 3 years was like a jet ski stroke, jet ski rock, just for like children. So from there, finally, when we were already sentenced, they took us to this Karelovinska Republika. They took us over there, way up there near Finland, and where the white bears are. It was very, very, very cold, and there was nothing for us prepared. We had to chop the trees, clean up a little the trees, build the barracks, and that was our place. And we made the nari, what they say, which you like. It's been okrąglaki, just the round wood. There was no mattress, there was nothing. And they were maybe 150 meters, 100 meters long. On one end was a lampion with a kerosene, and on the other end was one, and that was all the light that was there. And that's where we were sleeping. They gave a little water with fluskiller, and every day the same thing. There was never any change, never. People got sick. There were, from all these people that they brought to this area there were 3 colonies. I understand the 3 colonies were like 1,700 people. After 6 months, there was only 600 or 900. The rest died of sickness and of starvation. That was that. And we had to work. We were building a railroad, nasip, railroad, that has raised, not on the ground. We had to raise it, pack it, and then go with the rails on the top of it. And the soil was so hard and frozen. They give us the kilofit, they give us the tools. If you hit into the soil, like fire came out, like, it came out. If you chipped up that much, there was already a big success. And if you didn't work out a norm, so much and so much, you didn't get any food, and they undressed you completely and put you in an insulator for the night, alone. They went to Auschwitz. They went to Auschwitz. I know they went to Auschwitz. Went to Auschwitz. I know it for sure, because there was the locomotive engineer, what they call it here.
Who went to Auschwitz with the family?
My father,
What's his name?
Marcus Ebel, and my sister, Zhenya Ebel, and my sister-in-law, Toshka Ebel, and the most wonderful kid. The militia started to look for us. And in fact, one of these guys, he ran quick to Moscow before they catch him, and he went to Poland. Because they had some kind of wanted to investigate something. Because when people went to the movie theater, they bought a ticket to the movie theater. And they had to pay additional 2 rubles or 3 rubles, whatever, for the concert. Now, the movie from the concert, with the one that was running the movie theater, we made a deal with her. But this money is not for the theater, for the movie. This is for the musicians. And we gave her every week or every month, we gave her certain hundreds of rubles or whatever it was. And she gave us all the money that came in on these tickets. And we divided it up equally. I found out still from Russia that one of my sisters is alive, the one that is still alive now. Cecilia, I found out. And I came back to Poland. I was in Krakow. From Krakow, I went to Wadowice because she lived in Wadowice. Her husband, he was in Bergen-Belsen. Willie Glicksman was her husband. And so they lived over there, so I knew about it already. So I went to her. We were there for a few weeks, and I started to organize. I had connections. And then I went to Sweden, and my sister got...
Why did you go to Sweden?
I wanted to go somewhere. I didn't want to stay there. And there was an opportunity to go to Sweden because they were looking for, I told you, trades worker, Facharbeiter. So I registered, we joined as an electrotechnician. I was not an electrotechnician. I learned at one time something of electrical this, but they didn't care. We went on a ferry. The whole train went on a ferry. And but that's where they received us, from the Mosaiska Versammlung, which is Jewish Federation. That's where they received us, a group of people. And we came to a place, to Helsingborg. Then we went by train to Kristianstad. And in Kristianstad, we went to Kristianstad. And then he placed us in a hotel temporarily till he will find the jobs. So we were in the hotel there, and he gave us coupons. At that time they had coupons in Sweden for everything. So we got coupons, so we could buy bread, we could buy oranges, we could buy...
So all this time you went to this place first?
No. I didn't become a Swedish citizen, but I could work. This is a picture of our wedding that was on this October 30, 1948. And no, I'm sorry, I have to redo it. October 30, 1949, in Kristianstad, Sweden. And my wife's name is Sally, and my name is Willie. And both of us are now Mr. and Mrs. Sally William Ebel.
Okay.
On this picture, there are our daughters here. The oldest one is Jenny. She was born in Sweden, September 2nd, 1950. And the youngest one is Sonia, and she was born in Los Angeles, UCLA, and her name is, and she was born in 1958.
What's the name, Ebel?
Yes, and our daughters, the last name is Ebel.
Okay. Okay.
This is a picture of our family. That's my wife Sally next to me. And on the right-hand side next to me is Jenny. She lives in Amsterdam now. And on the left side of my wife is Sonia, and she lives in Auckland. And Mommy and I, my wife and I, live in Los Angeles.
And there are two daughters.
There are two daughters, yes.
And,
They both are daughters.
and your wife is Sally, yes?
Sally. This is me, William Ebel, and that was made in year 1927, possibly 8, and it was before the wedding of my sister Yeti, my older sister Yeti, and it was taken in Sucha, where in Poland, where I lived before the war. This is a picture of our whole family. My father, Marcus Ebel, my mother, Gusti Ebel, and it was taken in Sucha in year 1927. That was before the wedding of my oldest sister, Yeti, which is the third of the left side. from the left side. Now, going from the right side is my brother Rudolph, and next to him is my sister Zhenya. Next to her is my brother Joseph. Next to him is my sister Yeti. Next to Yeti is my sister Silly. And the last one is myself, Willie.